We are going to be talking about choice, or specifically teacher choice in professional learning this afternoon. My name is Jennifer Stevens, and I'm the president and CEO for Virginia Edge Strategies, the organization that is running the choice program statewide here in Virginia. If you don't already know about us, I'll just share a little bit of our background. Our organization is a nonprofit, and we've been around since 2007. Many of you might have known us as Virginia Advanced Study Strategies, particularly if you have ever taught advanced placement courses here in the state. We ran a program to support teachers in AP for many years when we first got started. But in 2019, we did some rebranding, and we also broadened our mission. So our mission right now really is to cultivate partnerships that work with K-12 and community stakeholders in an effort to make sure that we have innovative solutions in education and that we are preparing our students for next steps when they leave K-12. We have a very small but mighty team here at Virginia Edge Strategies. There's just two of us on the call today. We have 6 of us on staff. All of us have experience working in K-12. I myself was a teacher in one of the rural school divisions in Southern Virginia for a number of years before leaving to run programs like this. And I'm going to ask Sandy, our Director of Operations and Programs, to say hello and introduce herself.
Hey there, I'm Sandy Wilburn, and as Jennifer mentioned, I'm the Director of Operations and Programs with Virginia Ed Strategies, and I'm a former math teacher from Halifax County. I taught at the middle and high school levels. Thank you all for joining us today.
And what you're going to learn throughout this presentation is just how passionate we are about empowering and supporting educators, particularly right here in Virginia. So back in 2020, we competed for an Education Innovation and Research grant from the U.S. Department of Education. It was an early phase grant. It is a tiered program, just meaning that there are different tiers of funding, and we have the opportunity later, since this is an early phase grant, to possibly go back and get additional funding to scale and replicate the program if we find that we're having success in impacting teachers and students. The EIR program is one that is for funding new and innovative practices in education. So we are truly doing that with the Choice program, and we are excited to be providing some research around teacher-directed professional development. You might be surprised to know that no one in the history of education has ever thought to wonder what might happen if we give teachers choice in their professional development. What might happen with those teachers? Might they be more likely to stay in the profession? Might they have better well-being and mental health and all of those pieces? Will they feel empowered and supported? And also, how will it impact their students? And so that is exactly what we are attempting to do with this particular grant program. During that year when we applied for these funds, there were over 150 applications. 7 were awarded. And so we are really excited that we were able to bring this program here to Virginia. When we applied, we had a host of partners, and you see those partners there on the screen. I'm sure you will recognize most of those logos. It's just important for us to note these partners and to let you know that they truly have been wonderful partners for us over these past few years. They've worked very hard to help us think through exactly how we build and implement this program and to make sure that what we're doing is right for Virginia teachers, Virginia schools, and such. And so the Virginia Department of Education is a very strong partner with us on this program. They're very interested to see how potentially a program like this, providing support and empowerment for teachers, might actually impact teacher retention and impact some of the shortages that we are seeing statewide. And I would say anecdotally, we're already hearing from the teachers in our program that having a program like this is actually increasing their morale and making them excited about being in the classroom again. So we're excited to get some of that feedback early on. So just to give you some of the big details about Choice, It is a $10.8 million grant, again, from the U.S. Department of Education. And we do have over $1 million in matching funds from the partners that you saw there on the screen. We are running this program for at least 5 years. That was what we were funded to do. So we started in 2021 and are slated to go through at least December 2025. We do know that there's a possibility of a no-cost extension that would possibly put us into 2026. And then, as I already mentioned, with this being a tiered program, there is the possibility that we might be able to go back for additional funding to continue the work. And that, of course, is something that we hope for. Choice is slated to impact over 1,000 teachers here in Virginia. And we are primarily looking at math, science, computer science, and CTE, or career and technical education, if you're not familiar with that term. So the 1,000 or so teachers that will be in our program over the course of this 5-year period need to be teaching at least one course or providing some type of instruction in one of those 4 content areas. So when you hear me talk about content areas, math, science, computer science, and career and technical education are the 4 areas that we are focused on. Every teacher coming into our program receives access to $2,000 per year, and that funding is utilized for professional learning opportunities that they get to choose. And we're going to talk more specifically about that as we go on today. So this screen that you see here is a graphic that sort of incorporates our model, all of the various pieces. You see there at the top a mention of the choice dashboard. We did create an online customized dashboard for our teachers to be able to utilize to access all of our program resources, access their funding, and even access their peers all across the state. So as teachers come into the program, they become part of a professional learning community that we call Choice. And that professional learning community is supported by not only the 6 staff members that I've already mentioned who are part of Virginia Ed Strategies, but we also have a team of educators who work for us part-time. All of those educators are still in the classroom or still somehow connected to Virginia school divisions. If I were to mention all of their names today, you would probably recognize many of them. We have 4 people right now that are acting as content specialists. So 1 person for each of the 4 content areas that I mentioned earlier. Their job really is to provide content level support and connection among teachers who teach in those various content areas, as well as a connection to things that are happening at the state and national level. So all 4 of those people are very well respected in their field, respected here in Virginia, and even well respected outside of Virginia. We also have community of practice facilitators. And I'll just mention that our teachers not only become part of this overarching virtual professional learning community, but they're also assigned to smaller communities of practice. So teachers will be in a community of practice with about 70 to 80 peers all across the state. And the community of practice facilitator will be the person who facilitates that community of practice and provides direct level support to all of the teachers in that COP. The COP facilitators, just like our content specialists, are all Virginia educators. The ones we have right now all have experience at the high school level in one or more of those 4 content areas. And as we seek to expand choice for cohort 2, we will be hiring some elementary and middle school folks who have experience at those grade levels and in those content areas to be added to our staff to help support teachers in the program. We also, of course, have the funding. Certainly our administrators in the schools are helping to provide support, but all of these pieces kind of come together to produce the model that we call Choice. So as teachers come in, they immediately start experiencing a supportive environment for their professional growth by being part of that overarching professional learning community and in those smaller communities of practice. And also through the professional learning that teachers are able to attend using the funds that they're given as part of this program, they will hopefully gain new knowledge and skills from that professional learning and increase their self-efficacy. Then in turn, our theory would be that those teachers' students are going to also see improvement. And our hope is that we'll see students' engagement, confidence, and their academic outcomes in those 4 content areas would improve. And that, of course, in turn, helps us to think that students from these teachers' classes will be better prepared to pursue STEM careers. So that's sort of our theory of action in this program. So now to kind of get a little bit down to the key components or some of the more specifics, I've already mentioned a few of them. Again, as you come into this professional learning community, you're going to immediately have access to all of the teachers across the state who are part of this professional learning community. And we believe that's really important because many of you teach in schools or school divisions where you are the only person teaching the content that you teach. Particularly, I would say at the middle and high school level, there may be only one teacher who teaches, Algebra 1 or one teacher that teaches welding or that sort of thing. And so those teachers don't have peers. They don't have people to bounce ideas off of and share resources, step across the hall and say, how did that lesson go for you today? Because this really bombed for me, those kinds of things. And so we're happy to be able to connect you all to peers all across the state who teach the same courses you teach and teach the same type of students that you teach. Our content specialists, as I mentioned earlier, provide support in their content areas. They'll be providing some live meetings and activities throughout the year that are optional for you, but are opportunities for you to engage with them and to also engage with your peers. We also have within those communities of practice, the COP facilitators provide assistance for your success in the program. So you're always going to have someone that you can reach out to every day, as many times as you need to, by email, phone call, Zoom meeting, whatever works best for you. And they will be able to answer your questions, point you in the right direction, make sure you have what you need to be successful and to be able to use your funding to your best benefit. We have also created what we call the Choice Self-Assessment. It is a custom tool that we created, and that self-assessment is aligned with the 8 Virginia performance standards that all teachers here in Virginia are evaluated against. And we created this self-assessment because we wanted our teachers to have the opportunity to truly reflect on their practices, reflect on where they are right now as a teacher and maybe where they want to go. And so this self-assessment has both multiple choice questions as well as some open-ended questions, but it is completely meant for your use and for your reflection. It is not meant for any type of evaluation. It's not shared outside of this program. It's not shared with administrators unless you choose to do so. But that self-assessment will hopefully provide you some good information to help you to determine, or at least use as one piece of information to help you determine what you want to focus on over the next year for your professional learning. So we then would ask you to do an annual professional learning goal. And that's just a SMART goal. Many of you probably already have one with your school divisions. You can use the same one or you can have a different one. But this goal will be your personal goal for how you want to grow as a teacher in your professional learning over the next year. Also within your community of practice, in addition to being able to get that self-assessment and to do your professional learning goal, you'll be able to have support from your COP facilitator, feedback from your facilitator, and again, another opportunity for peer collaboration in smaller groups. Also within our dashboard is how you will let us know how you want to spend your choice funding. So we have a choice professional learning menu. We have curated that menu with lots and lots of high quality professional learning opportunities statewide, nationwide, even outside of the country. And those things that we have in our menu are opportunities that teachers have put in there, that our team has put in there. Some of our providers send us things. And that menu is just meant to have you a place to start. It is not meant to be all encompassing. Many of you will come into this program knowing exactly what professional learning you want to go to. Maybe there's a conference you've always wanted to attend. Maybe there's a course you need to take. Whatever it might be, you'll be able to do that. So even if it's not in our menu already, you'll have a process and a form to be able to put things that you want to see added to our menu. You'll also have the opportunity to give us some feedback on professional learning that you attend. So if you take a course or you go to a conference, we'll ask you to give us just a little bit of feedback so that it helps us to know if these are things that we should continue to feature in our menu on a year-to-year basis, or if there are things that maybe we need to take out because they just weren't the quality that we thought they were. So that's really helpful for you as well as your peers. When you come back from your professional learning, whether again it's a course, conference, industry credential, whatever it might be, we're going to give you the opportunity to develop a plan for how you're going to implement in the classroom. Research actually shows that the reason oftentimes professional development does not seem impactful in our schools is because teachers don't always have the support they need to implement new things that they've learned. So we want to give you that support from our team, from our content specialists, our COP facilitators, as well as your peers. And we want to help you to think about not only how you might implement, but what barriers you may have, what support you may need from us or your administrators, and we're going to help to facilitate that as much as we can. Also within our dashboard really is all of the resources for our program. Our choice dashboard truly is the hub of choice. It is the way that you're going to be able to interact with all of us, our team, your peers. You're going to be able to access, again, that PL menu, your self-assessment, all of those pieces are going to be right there in one place so that we're not having to email back and forth and put things in Google folders and things like that. Everything is going to be all in one place. And a really good thing about the dashboard is that we are tracking every penny of your funding. So you will always know exactly how much money you've spent, how much money you still have left. And we're also going to track your attendance, not only for the use of our research, the evaluation that has to be done for our program, but also for you. We know that as former teachers ourselves, that it's often a real chore to have to get your license renewed. And you're all the time trying to look back over the last several years and find those things where you get points or those courses or whatever. We're going to keep track of all of that for you, including any certificates that you've gotten, any kind of proof that you have of things that you've done, as well as the time that you spend in various opportunities with us, whether you attend a live meeting or some type of additional opportunity that we have as part of our program. We're going to keep track of all of that so that you'll have every bit of it at your fingertips when you need it for your license renewal. Another thing that you'll find within our choice dashboard is our onboarding and training. There are some things that we're going to ask teachers to do once you're invited into the program and you agree to be part of choice. We want to make sure that you fully understand how to navigate our dashboard, how to access the various resources, how to fill out forms to make sure that you get approved for travel, or that we are making sure we reimburse you for things that you need to be reimbursed for. So all of that is part of the onboarding and training that we do. It is not something you have to do live. We have created 6 video modules that are pretty short in nature. They take you through each different aspect of our program, and you would be able to get those all done in addition to the self-assessment and the professional learning goal in a fairly short period of time. We're going to give you at least 4 weeks to get it done once we get started with that, but it probably would only take you maybe 3 to 4 hours at the most to do all of it if you were to sit down and do all of it at one time. So it's not a big time commitment. But that again is for your benefit to fully understand how to be successful in the program. So I mentioned cohorts a little while ago. The cohort right now that we're recruiting for is cohort 2. But as you can see on the screen, we did have 2 prior cohorts. We had one that was a planning cohort, and that was back in our very first year of the program. We had a small group of teachers from a number of school divisions who participated in that pilot, and they helped us to really take a look at our model and make sure what we're doing was right, and fix some of the things that were a hassle or were not as user friendly as we had hoped. And so that pilot was very successful, again, helped us to really improve upon the model that we created for you and our processes and our onboarding and training and all those pieces. And then we moved into cohort 1. Cohort 1 is currently ongoing. There are about 400 teachers from 88 of our school divisions across the state. And those 88 school divisions are encompassed of, rural, non-rural, everything in between, small and large. So a great diverse group of teachers in that cohort. They've now been with us, some of them for 2 years, a few of them have been with us for just the past year. All of them are high school teachers teaching grades 9 through 12, and all of them teach at least one course in math, science, computer science, or CTE. Now, as we move into cohort 2 this summer, we are inviting over 600 teachers into this new cohort, and we have expanded to include grades pre-K through 8 in addition to 9 through 12. So we will be taking grades pre-K through 12 in cohort 2, 600 or more teachers. And these teachers will start with us just within the next few weeks, getting their onboarding and training done, and then moving right into being able to access their funding and go to professional learning that they're interested in. The cohort 2, we know will be with us for at least the next school year and up into the next summer. But we think that there's a possibility that we might even be able to provide some funding and support for our cohort teachers moving into the 2025-26 school year. We'll know more about that within the next several months. Right now, again, we can promise a year of funding, but there might be the possibility of more down the line. So now we'll talk a little bit about the funding and exactly how you can use it. So again, it's $2,000 annually. That is per year per teacher. So our cohort 1 teachers have had the benefit of more than 1 year of training. When you come in, you're guaranteed $1,500 as long as you get through your onboarding and training, but we're going to give you an additional $500 to get you up to that $2,000 annually, as long as you get your onboarding done in a timely manner. And that for us means within about a 4-week period after you get started. And again, that is more than enough time, really, especially if you're able to get it during the summer when maybe things are a little bit less hectic for you. The $2,000 is not a stipend. This is not money paid directly to you. It is a bank of funds that you will have access to throughout your time with us. That funding can be used for a multitude of various expenses related to professional learning that you choose. So that would include the registration or the tuition if it's a course, other fees associated with getting you registered for or enrolled in whatever that opportunity is. You also are able to use your money for hotel lodging, for transportation, whether that's airfare or whether that's a personal car to drive to something within state. It'll also pay for your meals if you are staying overnight for your professional learning opportunity. And we will also allow you to use these funds for materials and resources. The caveat there is that it has to be tied to a professional learning. So we're not allowing teachers to reach out and just say, hey, I want you to buy me $2,000 worth of stuff for my classroom. That's not what these funds are meant to do. They're really meant to give you those opportunities in professional learning. So what we can do is to buy materials and resources you may need for the training itself. If there's a book, if there's some type of material that's necessary for you to be able to do that training, we'll buy that. And we'll also buy things that might help you to implement something in your classroom when you return from that professional learning. I'll give you an example of sort of an innovative way of using funds. We had one teacher this past year who knew that she could get free professional development from the vendor where she wanted to purchase bench robots, and she wanted to be able to implement the use of those bench robots in her classroom. And so she reached out to us and she was able to share with us the information about the professional learning and said, the professional learning is going to be free and I'm planning to do this over this period of time, but then would you be willing then to pay for the robots? And we did, because we thought that was a great use of funds still associated with professional learning. So that's just one opportunity, and we'll talk about a few others in just a few minutes. One thing I want teachers to know is that we have taken a lot of time and effort to think about and to hear feedback from teachers to really understand some of the barriers and challenges around going to professional development. And one of those things we know is that sometimes having all of those out-of-pocket costs up front make it very difficult for teachers. I know for myself, when I was in school many years ago, and if I was very lucky and was gotten approved to go to a state conference or something like that, I still had to pay for everything up front, and I didn't get reimbursed for 4 to 8 weeks after returning from that event or that conference. And teachers, we know your salaries are not that high, and it's hard to be out of pocket for a couple $1,000s for 8 weeks while you're waiting to get paid for that. And so we do our best to limit your upfront costs, and we do that by registering on your behalf. So we're going to register you for that conference. We're going to contact the college and get you enrolled in a course. We're going to pay directly to the vendor for whatever industry credential you might be wanting to earn. We're going to do everything we can to pay up front. We're even going to book your lodging for you and pay the hotel directly. We're going to purchase your materials for you whenever we can, instead of you having to do that. So we do as much of that as possible to limit what you have to pay out of pocket up front. We also try to leverage our opportunities sometimes to get bulk, pricing or maybe discounted pricing that maybe helps you to save some money. We really encourage teachers, though, to leverage our choice funds with other funds that may be available, whether it's school funds or a grant that maybe you've been able to be awarded, or some other way that gives you additional funding on top of the 2,000 that you'll have from us, because sometimes that will help you to be able to go farther and do more with your professional learning. So I mentioned earlier that there are lots of different professional learning options already in our choice professional learning menu. And that's where you're going to start. You're going to go into that menu. You're going to be able to sort it, filter it, and look for things that you're excited about. You'll be able to sort it and filter by the type of opportunity, whether it's a conference or a class or a webinar. You can filter by the location of it, whether it's here in state or outside of that. You can even filter by how much money you have left. You could say, okay, show me all the opportunities out there for $300, because maybe that's what you have left after having gone to something else. Lots of different ways that you'll be able to sort and filter and find things that you're excited about. But if you don't, you will be able to add things to that menu so that you can then request to use your funds for that opportunity, and other teachers will be able to see it too. And that's why I said that our menu is populated by providers, our team members, as well as you and your peers. So most teachers want to fully understand before committing to a program like this exactly what they have to do, what's optional and what's a deal breaker. So the things you see here on the screen are the steps that every teacher must take in order to access the $2,000. And there are not that many. The first thing that teachers are going to do, if they have not already done so, is to fill out an interest form. And that interest form is on our website. We're going to drop a link in chat in just a moment. But that is your first step. So if you have not already done that interest form, you're going to want to do that today or as soon as possible if this is something that you're interested in doing. And then once you have done that interest form, you will just sit tight, wait to hear from us. And the next couple of weeks, we'll be reaching out and we'll be inviting teachers to join the program. We've got to first look at all of the interest forms we've received, look at where they're from, what teachers teach, things like that, so that we can get a good grouping for this cohort. We anticipate taking about 100 new high school teachers to add to the 400 we already have. But then we will also be adding about 250 elementary teachers and about 250 middle school teachers statewide. But again, we'll be looking at all the interest forms and figuring out who to invite. And then we will be sending out emails in the next couple of weeks letting you know your status, whether you've been invited or whether maybe you weren't eligible based on the information you shared, or maybe it's hang on just a little bit longer because we're going to invite another group soon. But just keep an eye on your email. And I will say this too, as you do that interest form, if you've not already done so, be sure that the email that you put down as your preferred email is one that you will check over the summer. We know that many of you are already out of school for the summer. Some of you are getting ready to get out for the summer, and some of you may not be checking your school email over the summer. So if that's the case, don't use your school email as your preferred email. Give us an email that you're going to be checking and that we can communicate with you using all throughout the summer. So once you are invited to the program, once you get that email that says, congratulations, we want to invite you to be part of Choice Cohort 2, we're going to ask you to be sure you understand everything. We'll give you a link to a video, such as the information session that you're watching right now, just in case. We will also invite you to ask us questions if you have any additional questions. But once you're ready, we're going to ask you to digitally sign our choice agreement. Our choice agreement is not a legally binding contract. It is just an agreement that spells out exactly what you can expect with the program, what we expect of you, and just says, yes, this is something I want to do, and you'll sign digitally, and we'll get a copy of that. And once you've done that, you are officially part of Choice Cohort 2. Now, to stay in Choice Cohort 2, the steps that you see on the screen will be the next things we'll ask you to do. So first, we're going to ask you to do our choice data survey. The data survey is probably going to take you 15 to 20 minutes to complete. It's going to ask you a ton of questions, and you're probably going to wonder, why are they asking me this? Why do they need to know my t-shirt size? Why do they need to know about my COVID vaccination status and all these sorts of things? We ask those questions because not only some of the things, of course, we want to know for our data. We want to know who you are and where you teach and what courses you teach and that sort of thing, because we use that information to pair you up and to put you into the communities of practice that are part of the program. But we also need some of this other information because those are the types of things that we're asked when we register you for a conference or enroll you in a course. So we need to know who your emergency contact is, and we need to know your home address, and we need to know what your dietary restrictions are, things like that. And we do that up front so that when we do get to the point in a few months or a few weeks or whenever it happens that you're ready to go to a professional learning opportunity, we don't have to ask you all those things again. We have all that information, and we're actually saving you a lot of time because you're not going to be, getting asked by us, and you're also not having to register yourself. So not only are you saving upfront money, but time by getting this data survey done for us. So we're going to ask you to do that. That data survey is also going to give us the information, as I said, to enroll you into our program and into our dashboard. That's really important because that's going to then give you the login that you need to access the choice dashboard, which I've mentioned before, where everything is located. So once you get into that dashboard, the first thing you're going to want to do is to complete your choice onboarding and training. As I mentioned earlier, it's 6 video modules. And those modules will also take you through completing the choice self-assessment and also developing your annual professional learning goal. So once you have gotten through that onboarding and training, you will have done everything on the screen, and you will then be granted access to your $2,000 to use for professional development sometime over the next year or so. I mentioned earlier that this is a research project. I want to make sure you all know we are not researchers by nature. This is not our bread and butter. We do research because it allows us to get the kind of funding that is impactful for teachers here in the state. And this particular grant from the U.S. Department of Education does require an external evaluation, meaning that we had to hire an outside group to collect data, to do surveys, and to really look at all parts and pieces of our program to understand how we're implementing through the Fidelity of Implementation study, as well as what impact what we're doing here in Choice has on teachers, and also the impact it has on the students in those teachers' classrooms. This will not be a big time commitment for anyone in the program. Just to give you an example, you will be asked to do a teacher survey by ICF International sometime next school year. And that survey just asks your impressions about the program, how it's impacting you for good or bad. And we, of course, want you to be completely honest. That information, again, is being used by the U.S. Department of Education. It also helps us to continuously improve all along the way. Because as soon as we hear teachers say, this doesn't work well, or I really think this should be different, we take that to heart and we make changes. And we've been doing that all throughout the way. Another thing that teachers will be invited to do is a focus group interview, which would be live through a Zoom meeting like this. and you just be on a call with maybe 15 other teachers and just being asked some questions and let you share your honest impressions about various different things about the program. And then thirdly, at some point, teachers will be asked to do a student survey, which would be for the students in their classrooms. Right now, we think that's only going to be cohort 1, so that would not affect those of you on the call, but I just mention it so that you're aware that it is something that we're doing. Teachers always want to understand the time commitment of this program because, everything has time associated with it, and we know teachers have very little extra time. And so I will also say that all of the decisions we've made about how we implement this program, the types of opportunities that we offer, when we do live meetings, all those sorts of things are providing you lots and lots of flexibility and lots of options. And so some of the things, of course, are deal breakers, as we already said. The onboarding and training is very important. You being able to reflect on that self-assessment, very important. A lot of the live meetings and events you're going to find to be completely optional. So your COP facilitator is going to try a couple of times a semester to pull together teachers that are in that community of practice and do some fun things, talk about what's going on, help provide you different, providing support and things like that. There'll also be discussion posts. Peer groups are another opportunity that you could participate in. Your content specialist will be doing various live events once or twice a year. Those are kinds of things that you'll have opportunities to do, but are not necessarily something that you have to do. So that's why when we say there's lots of flexibility, there truly is in this program. So you really get to commit as much time as you see fit and as you see valuable to your professional growth as a teacher. So here on the screen are some of what we think are the benefits of participating in choice. I hope that you have picked up on some of these as you've been listening today. Maybe you've talked to some teachers who are already in the program. But as I mentioned, it's a very early part of this program today. Empowerment is a big piece for us. We very much want to make teachers feel empowered in their decision making. We want you all to feel like the professionals that you are. We know from our years in education, I've been in education now since 1995, so a long time. I know that teachers don't always feel empowered. They don't always feel supported. And those are things that you're going to find in this program. That ongoing support is going to be a big piece because you're going to get just as much support as you need and as you want and as you request. The funding, that's a no-brainer. Every teacher could use $2,000 for professional development they get to pick. And so we're excited to be able to offer that. And we hope that you're able to leverage that with other funding maybe that you have access to. I mentioned earlier, peer collaboration is a big opportunity with this program, really being able to connect you with other teachers all across the state who are in the same trenches that you are and may have some great resources and ideas to share with you and that you can share with them. And then customization, again, that's a big piece for us. As I mentioned, we have all these partners all across the state. We also, again, listen to your feedback, that of our content specialists and our COP facilitators to really customize everything that we're doing for Virginia teachers. We want to do what's best and what's right for you all and what supports you the most. So now I'll just get into the next steps. I've already sort of gone through a little bit of this when we were talking about how to get access to your funding, but I can't emphasize enough that interest form. If you've not already completed an interest form before today and you think you are interested, you can use the QR code that you see there on the screen, or you can go to our website. I think Sandy's going to drop a link in the chat. Please complete that interest form. It won't take you more than a minute. It's just going to ask you your name, your email address. Again, that preferred email address is really important. Make sure you're checking that this summer. And it's going to ask you, what grade levels you teach, what content areas, and what your title is. If you're a classroom teacher or if you are a librarian or a technology resource teacher or whatever, we want to know what your role is in your school. Once you've done that interest form, again, you're just going to watch your email in the coming weeks for next steps. We will let you know when we start inviting teachers into the program. And we just ask that you please respond in a timely manner, because I can already tell you we have way more interest forms than we have spots available. Now, some of those interest forms maybe have been done by teachers that aren't eligible. We haven't gone through them yet, but we do have a lot of interest. And so we're going to give teachers, if we say in the email, respond by this date, please be sure to do that. Because if we don't hear from you, we might give you one more chance, and then we're going to just kind of mark you off the list and move on to, our waiting list. So be sure to be timely in your responses to emails requesting various things. We also encourage you to let your peers know about this. If you've got peers in other school divisions, family members, anybody that you know that might be a pre-K through 12 teacher in a Virginia school, it does need to be a public school. We currently do not accept teachers from private schools. But so a teacher from any public school here in Virginia would be eligible, even if they teach virtually. And so please let them know. And also, if you have not already talked to your principal or other administrator about this program, they may not already know about it. You may have heard about it from a peer, but maybe your principal has not heard and would like to share this with other teachers in your building. So please let them know and encourage them to reach out to me with questions. On our Join Choice page on our website, which is also where the interest form resides, there is a link for administrators to click and to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me to ask any questions they may have, or to share any concerns they may have. So I'm always happy to talk to administrators. So I am going to stop now and answer any questions that you all may have. If this is a recording and you're watching this later, just know that we are always available to answer your questions by email. Sandy's going to drop the Choice Team email address into chat, and we just welcome you all to reach out later if you don't have questions today. But I'm going to stop now and see if any of you have any questions for me. You can drop those in chat, or feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away. Happy to talk to you.
We do have two in there, Jennifer, in chat already.
All right, well, let me take a look. First one I see, could special education teachers that co-teach complete the program? That is a good question, and it is one that we are considering. If you are a special education teacher or you know one, I would suggest they go ahead and do the interest form. We do have special ed teacher as one of the positions listed. We have not made a firm decision yet on if we will invite special education teachers into the program. I think it's going to depend heavily on who we have expressing interest and the grade levels they teach and all of that, because we are trying to get certain numbers, in each of the different groups, as I mentioned earlier. So, but I do encourage you to do the interest form. If you've already done it, just be on the lookout for an email from us soon, and that'll let you know the status. The next question I see are gifted and talented enrichment teachers eligible. I focus on STEM and computer science. That is another position that we have listed, gifted and talented, and another one that we are considering. And the reason I even say we're considering and may not be sure at this very moment in time, in our cohort 1, we had a very firm rule that our cohort 1 teachers had to be providing instruction to an enrolled group of students. And so that did not include resource teachers, because they don't have their own roster, so that if we were to go to the Virginia Department of Education, which we do, and ask for student data that is tied to that teacher, if you're a resource teacher, if you're a librarian, you don't have that, because you're not teaching a group, SOLs and things like that. For cohort 2, we are opening up a little bit wider than that. So we're just not sure. Again, we're looking at the interest, and we'll make some decisions. But I think there's a good possibility that gifted and talented teachers might be invited in. Great question so far. Susan wants to know, does a substitute cost get covered? Great question. So the quick answer to that is no. We are very much hoping that your administrators will be able to pay for substitutes. And for the last 3 years of this program, that has been the case. We have only had one teacher come to us and say, I'm not going to be able to go to this conference that I want to go to during the school year unless you all cover the sub. And we did. So the quick answer is no, we don't advertise that we pay for subs. That teacher did have to use some of her funding to pay for the substitute because we don't have a budget outside of the money that teachers have access to. But we are always wanting to deal with any outside circumstances on a case by case basis. So if you are a teacher who has something you really want to do and your principal's like, I just cannot pay for the sub, then you would just come to us and let us know that, and we would do our best to work with you. But up front, that's not something that we generally cover, and we haven't seen a problem with that a whole lot. Amanda says, I'm interested in a math specialist degree through a 2-year program. I'm wondering if that's something the funding could go towards. Absolutely. And I should have given you all more examples during my talk earlier. So some examples of how you might use your funding. If you want to go to that state conference, VCTM or VASCD or something like that, absolutely great use of funds. If you are working towards a degree, another license, if you're on a provisional license and you're trying to get your full license, you've got courses you've got to take, that's a great use of your funds. We will pay for coursework, no matter what that coursework is going towards, as long as it's in education. We don't want to pay for courses that are going to make you an engineer or a scientist or something. But as long as it makes sense for the position that you're in or one that you are striving to move into in the education field, we most certainly will pay. And that would also include if you're getting a license to be an administrator. So definitely that. We do have a lot of teachers on provisional licenses in our program, and so they're being able to use their funds towards that coursework that they need. We also have teachers maybe who have finished their coursework but haven't done the praxis yet and are wanting some support in preparing for the praxis. And so we paid for praxis materials preparation programs and also for the praxis exam itself if the teacher did get us to pay for some preparation sort of stuff. We have paid for teachers to do industry credentials. So if you were, let's say, a cybersecurity teacher and you wanted to get a Security Plus certification from CompTIA, that's something we would pay for, and we would also pay for the exam. We had 2 teachers last summer who went to the Amazon rainforest with their money. They were science teachers in Louisa County. We have a great video. I'm going to ask Sandy to drop a link to that video so that you can watch it later. I would have showed it on our presentation today, but the sound doesn't come through very well through Zoom. So I'm going to invite you to take a look at that. It's a YouTube link, and take a look at that later. It's only 2 minutes, but you can hear from those teachers how they went to the rainforest. They're actually in the rainforest when they did the video for us. So they were really smart, in using their funds to do something fabulous that they'd never done before. We've had a few other teachers who've gone outside of the country for various different experiences and programs. Let's see, what else? Sandy, what am I forgetting? And I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about the ways that you can spend your funding.
I think webinars, it could be, you said praxis. I'm sorry, I was dropping links. You mentioned the praxis preparation and all. So yeah, it's pretty wide open as long as it makes sense. So I'm a former teacher. I didn't have the opportunity to participate in professional learning unless I paid for it myself, really. Anything that I was interested in, I should say. So it's a great opportunity, and it's pretty much wide open for you as long as it makes sense.
Yeah. I will just say, as the president and CEO and also the project director for Choice, the buck kind of stops with me on certain decisions. And I think there's only been once or twice that we've said no to something. And my gauge for saying no to something is if I know that you're going to be out of the school during the school year and you're going to have to go to your principal to say, can you get me a sub because I'm going to this thing that Choice is paying for, and your principal says absolutely not, I don't see how you could ever possibly use that in the classroom, that might make me think maybe this is something that we wouldn't want to support, because we want to make sure you're going to have support in implementing it in your classroom, and also supporting getting a sub or whatever you may need. But again, for the most part, there's been very few things that we have not paid for. It's been only 2 or 3 and that teacher was able to find something else that they were interested in. I see another person says, does it have to be completed by fall 2025? Yes. So we are going to ask teachers who have the $2,000 coming into the program for Cohort 2 to use all of their funding at least by fall of 2025. And as you get into the program and we start seeing what's happening and whether or not there's an extension and that sort of thing, there could be the possibility that you'd have a little bit more time, but I wouldn't bank on it. So we would hope that over the course of the next, 12 months, you'd be able to find something and attend using your funds. I see another person says, is there an expectation to create a presentation or some sort of follow-up? No. So the only thing that we're going to ask of you when you come back from your professional learning is, first of all, we're going to say, please send us something proving you went. Same thing that you would use to get your license point, whether it's a certificate or whatever you may have gotten from the provider saying, yep, she attended. So we want to keep track of that for you. And it's also a good means for us to show the U.S. Department of Education that we're spending these funds wisely. We're also going to ask you to give us some feedback on what you attended, a little survey. We just want to know, what you thought of it, if you thought it's useful or not, because that helps us to know whether we want to take it out of our menu or make sure we leave it in there. And then the last thing really is we ask you to consider, now what are you going to do? What did you learn and what are you going to implement in your classroom? And you might come back and say, I'm not going to be implementing anything. This is the worst thing I ever went to and I don't plan to use it. Well, that's okay. We want to know that. But for the most part, we are very hopeful that most of you will go to something really helpful and you will be able to implement. And you're going to tell us, okay, here's what I'm planning on do to implement this. And here's some support I might need, because we want to help you get that support if there's something you need to be able to implement. But that's really all that we ask of you. And we always ask for teachers to share with others, right? You won't have to, but if you would like to, there'll be opportunities for you to be able to share during maybe a live meeting or a quick video or whatever to tell us about, what you liked about it or what you're planning on doing or things like that. But those are all just optional. Like these two teachers that you'll see on the YouTube video, that was completely optional. They did that just because they really wanted to thank us for the funding that got them to the rainforest. So Alisa says, this seems too good to be true. Actually respecting teachers. Absolutely. That's the whole point of this. We have been working in education all of our careers. We know what you're going through. I can't say I've been in the classroom the last few years, but I've been working with all of you and I hear it and I know. And so we want to give you something to smile about and something to be excited about. And we hope that a program like this is something we're able to continue here in Virginia so that it's not just something grant funded. I am talking to the Secretary of Education, the governor, the superintendent of public instruction, legislators, because we are looking to hopefully fund at least some aspect of this work going forward, as long as we can show that, hey, not only are teachers saying this is great and it's supportive and they're feeling empowered, but they're excited to stay in the profession a little while longer. Maybe they're not ready to go flip hamburgers now. They're ready to, stay in the classroom for a little bit longer. So I hope that we are able to scale this up and continue it for many years based on what we hear from you all. But that's why the evaluation is so important, because we, as part of the team that's implementing this, we don't get to decide if we're doing great things. We have to have an outside entity to collect that data, hear from you all in a very unbiased way what you all think. And that's what's going to help to determine whether or not we have success getting additional funding. So I can't express to you enough how important it is for you to give us your feedback and to participate in those surveys and things like that give us the data necessary to be able to make the case that we need to keep doing this for years to come. Other questions that I can answer for you all. I could talk all day, but I won't keep you all day. I know you all probably already had a long day. So happy to answer anything else, but if not, I'll be glad to let you go. Sandy just dropped the Choice Team email there. We monitor that email every day and we'll get back to you within a day or two if you email that. So any questions that you have, please reach out and let us know. One more time, I'll say, make sure you do that interest form if you've not already done so. If you have, you've done everything you can do at this point. Now you're just waiting to hear back from us. So be checking your email. Even if you're laying by the pool or the beach, check that email. Make sure that you're looking for communication from us, because we will communicate with you one way or the other about your status over the next couple of weeks. So thank you all for being with us today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to working with hopefully all of you in the near future. Take care.